to do that. Okay, yeah. Yeah, all right. So we're streaming now? We're live. Are you sure?
I need to check on the page.
Technical. Are you sure? I'm on the page. Oh, yes, we're live. Hello, everybody. How are you today? My name is Loveline Bassi. Sorry, I'm laughing. We just had a little bit of a stop-start moment. We're trying to get going, and I didn't know that we were live already. So, hello again. Hello properly. So, I'm the one who started My Sister and I, and we've got so many other people who have joined us over time. And we started with doing just your self-defense basic moves, and teaching everybody what to do, how to do it. And we're starting to develop it more into, we started some exercise sessions in collaboration with HealthGuard. And I'm going to say thank you to HealthGuard for our studio today. We are borrowing a studio. And then we've got a couple of people.
Ladies, you know that we can't see you.
Ayanda. No, but on Facebook, I'm showing.
Okay, well, I can't see you. I can't see either of you. Can you
Sorry,
see me?
Chris.
Yes, I can see you.
Now we can.
Oh, apologies again. So we've got Christine Barrett. Christine Barrett is a marketing manager at HealthGuard International. She's joining us today. And we're going to have other people that are going to join us as well. We're going to have Isabel Lobsher, who is going to walk on now and have a seat next to me. She's the MD of HealthGuard in Southern Africa. And you're going to be hearing two lovely ladies speaking in the background, and they're Ayanda and Shanae. So that's the team that you've got discussing with you today. So welcome to our first business talk for My Sister and I. So it's really exciting for us. And we're not going to keep it very long today because we know it's your lunch hour. Depending on where you are in the world, watching from, if you're in South Africa, it's lunchtime. So we want to get through this. And it's really an introductory session for us. Okay, so our topic today is entrepreneurship. And we know we put up a sign that said, you're born to be an entrepreneur. So I'm going to be clicking my thing. That's supposed to change my slide behind me. It says, you're born to be an entrepreneur. Now, the question really is, are you really born to be an entrepreneur? I don't know.
True or false?
True or
True or
false?
false?
It's
True or false?
Yeah, because some people say, no, I don't think so. I don't think I'm born to be an entrepreneur. I want to work for somebody. And others, they feel pressured that they must be an entrepreneur, but they don't feel that they should be an entrepreneur or they're obliged to be an entrepreneur. So I think let's go around the table and see what your thoughts are.
I don't think, I think they are born entrepreneurs and they immediately know who they are, because these are children that from a young age are curious about things. They build things. They are the children that start making some money, extra money, you know, by cutting somebody else's lawns or whatever, because they've got a goal. They want to buy a game. They focus. They're goal orientated, and they also they try new things. And even if they fail, they keep trying new things. And that's the enthusiasm and passion that you actually want in an entrepreneur. While other people you get that are risk averse, you know, I want to sit behind a computer. I don't want to speak to people. Now maybe on the extreme side, I'm a little bit of I'm a little bit of a nerd, you know. I don't like speaking to people. I'm afraid of people. I don't want to go to a party and then nobody speaks to me, you know, that kind of person. And then maybe you get people in the middle ground which are saying like, you know, I like working in the workplace, but I like having a fixed salary. I like having the comfort and the risk that I'm not starting every month from scratch. Because if you're an entrepreneur, you don't have a salary to fall back on. You start from scratch every month and you thrive on it. You know, if I think of most of our entrepreneurs, they thrive on it. They thrive on the passion and the adrenaline that it gives them. While other people will have a nervous breakdown, you know, if it happens to them. What do you think?
Well, for me, I suppose I think that your environment also plays a role in whether you become an entrepreneur or not. So in a lot of African countries, because of the rate of poverty, depending on how hard it is in that country, you find that there are more entrepreneurs in those countries. And if you start moving west towards West, Central, Northern Africa, where there's lesser involvement of government in terms of aid and all of that, in terms of business, you find that there are a lot of people that are entrepreneurs because they know that it's more difficult to find a job. So I have to think, how do I make a living? How do I feed myself? How do I feed my families? So your circumstances kind of makes you become an entrepreneur. And it forces you, it pushes you into that. And some of us, we grow, it depends, I think, also on the family you grew up in. There are people who grew up in blue-collar homes. So their parents were working, formal job their whole lives, then retired. And then you have those who their parents were always doing one kind of business or the other. It doesn't matter whether it succeeded or not. Maybe they were even going to work, but then they were selling water from the backyard, or they were selling little bottles of honey in the backyard. So I don't think that everybody is born to be an entrepreneur, but I think you can learn to be an entrepreneur, even if you were not born to be an entrepreneur.
You know, I remember staying in Pretoria many years ago, and there was this family also had no income, but they had 2 children that they had to put through school. And there was this one man, and his wife made a South African delicacy, which is very much like a fat cook. What would you call that in a
fat cook? I like your donuts, kind of local donuts.
Like a donut. And he would sell that every morning. And, you know, for 5 years, that's how they put their children through school. Because out of a necessity, you know, they didn't have any other skills. She could bake, and he was at the road, you know, selling these bags of donuts. And that's how they did it. Yeah, that's how they did it. And they put both of their children through school and one through university.
Yeah, circumstances make you do things. I know Christine has a different dynamic to entrepreneurship, also because of her children. And having children also pushed her into becoming an entrepreneur years ago. Christine?
No, absolutely, and I must be honest with you, I didn't even realize I was doing it. You know, it was only afterwards that I thought how entrepreneurial I was being without even realizing it. So it's quite an interesting story, because when my children were young, I had 2 sons who suffered from dyslexia. And this meant that they struggled really, really badly at school. And in those days, there wasn't any support for them. You know, extra classes and things like that. So basically, I started teaching them myself at home in the afternoons. So a full-time job just wasn't an option for me, because I knew these children would just fall so far behind if I had just, you know, did a normal full-time job. So I did a variety of part-time jobs. And I think about it now, and I'm thinking, well, I didn't even realize how entrepreneurial I was being. But one of the jobs that I did was network marketing. And it was my first encounter with network marketing. I didn't know anything about it before that. I knew about it, but I'd never been involved in it. I'd bought some products from various network marketing companies in the past, but I wasn't involved in it in any way. And I really, really enjoyed my time as a distributor. I don't know whether you want me to say the name of the company or not, so I won't. But I really, really enjoyed my time as a distributor, and I met so many meetings at your house, and we all used to come and buy products, and you used to do demonstrations. Everybody remembers it. So and it was such an interesting time in my life that I really, really enjoyed. And the children thrived because they were part of it. They got involved with putting out the chairs for meetings and putting out leaflets on the seats and making sure there was glasses for water and so on. It really was an exciting time in my life. And only afterwards I realized, wow, I'm being an entrepreneur. And things wasn't spoken about much in those days. It's quite interesting how life makes changes in your life for you sometimes.
Yeah, that's true, because if your children if you didn't have that problem or that situation rather with your children, you would never have thought about trying to sell something else to make extra money, because now you have to look after your kids. And if you look at the situation now with COVID, a lot of people have lost their jobs. With schools not being in regular sessions, parents are having to work from home or make a plan. And some are saying, I want to homeschool my kids, but then how am I going to pay my bills?
And there's been such a market created for teachers that, are obviously laid off because schools are not operating, but they're tutoring. They're doing private lessons, tutoring. So they're creating their own little businesses.
Exactly.
And they're actually doing much better and earning much better than what they did as a teacher.
And I think that also brings us to this thing where people think that being an entrepreneur means you have to sell something physical. No, it doesn't mean that you have to open up a shop or open up a thing. It can be your services. You can look at how do I and
Make the world a better place.
exactly. So it could be from a need, what's the need out there? Oh, by the way, I'm very good at this. I'm very good at drawing. I can design on ceramic cups. What if I did something and sold to people next to me?
Yeah.
That's how you get started. Sometimes you get started with an idea, and that's the thing of the moment where you say, okay. In some cases, like Christine's case, she didn't know she was becoming an entrepreneur. In some cases, you say, okay, now I want to be an entrepreneur, or I realize I'm an entrepreneur, but how do I get started?
Yeah.
I don't even have a single idea.
Yeah. And also just to add on to that, Loveland, and
I don't think you're on.
No, we can hear her.
oh,
okay.
perfect. Just to add on to that, I think we also need to understand that you have entrepreneurs that inherit riches from their parents. So they're not born an entrepreneur, but they do inherit a business or a services that their parents had in the past and so onwards. So with that, as we know, as an entrepreneur, there comes a lot with it. So it's not just being an entrepreneur and waking up one morning and saying, that's what I'm going to be. If I look at yourself, Loveland, as an entrepreneur, one of the things that stand out is the fact that you're such a fitness junkie. And I'm saying it like that because it's not just about the looks of being an entrepreneur or having the body, but being in the right mindset all the time, being healthy and representing your brand, company, and who you truly are. So with an entrepreneur, there's a lot that comes with it. So if you don't have that aspects, or if you're not willing to sacrifice, and then it becomes a bit difficult for you to start up your own thing, or like Isabel said, if you're happy and comfortable with being where you are behind a desk, and then you can never reach that goal as an entrepreneur.
But it's also looking at what skills do you
Yes.
have, even if you've got a full-time job and you need some extra money, if you're very good at making clothes, you can do selective repairs or making clothes, evening clothes, matric dance clothes, all of those things over the weekends and after hours, like a friend of mine is doing at the moment, and earning some extra money. And she didn't even realize that, it's just the need, because her children needs to go to university, that she needs an additional income. But she is selling the concept and she is making money from it, and she's doing really well.
Absolutely. And I think one of the things that Shanae said, it's being willing to sacrifice, because that is one of the biggest things that every single entrepreneur does. You have to sacrifice your time, your money, because let's face it, if you're going to start something how are you going to, it's your money you're starting it with, because even if you're getting a grant, you have to, if you're going to get a government grant or something, you would have some money to put the paperwork together, the bid together.
Or an investor. But I have to say to you, you know, I've been in direct selling 20 years. And then I decided to start my own business, and you know, together with my husband. And I've been telling everybody else how to do it for 20 years, and then you do it yourself. And it's quite a mind shift change, because you're taking a risk. And I think that's what everybody is afraid of. You know, you're going to fail, you're going to lose the money, you're not going to recover again, because now it's not somebody else's money that you're working with, it's your own money. And now I need do I buy twice of this, or do I buy one of this? And it's those kinds of decisions. And as Laban also says, it's the drive to get up in the morning. I work twice as hard when I had my own business than when,
Yes, definitely.
when I'm working for a health card, because, you know, this is me. I need to succeed. You know, I need to make this work. You know, there's a bond to be paid, and there's a card to be paid.
Oh my goodness.
All those things. But it is having that drive. And you make lots of mistakes in the beginning, but you learn from that. And I think that's what differentiates an entrepreneur as well. You just get up and you find a different way of doing it. Am I right?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, there's one thing I always tell people, and this is my personal thing, and it's not everybody's personal thing. I say to people, I am not afraid to fail. I've never been afraid to fail in my life. And it's something. I woke up one day and I realized to myself that every time that I have failed in something that I've set out to do, I've never fallen apart. I've just gone, okay, that didn't work.
So let
Was
me
it
try
something
something
I did?
else.
What did I do wrong? How do I fix it? So, you know, my mom how my mom got started in business. My mom was a 9-to-5 worker many years ago. And she tells this story and she says, oh, but you know, one day I was sitting in my office and one of our colleagues that had retired came to visit. And she looked at the colleague and said to herself, that is not going to be me. Because this person was living on their pension, but before they retired, they had a good life, you know, they were earning full salary and all of that. And she's like, no, that is not going to be me. And she put in her notice and resigned without knowing what she was going to do. Sure. And then she went from one business to the other and one business to the other before she finally, it took a few tries before she finally found her niche. And even me, God knows how many degrees that I've got, but at the same time, I've worked for a law firm. And Isabel, you know, and I say this because, guys, I'm still in my 30s. Thank God for that. But I'm going to get to 40 at some point in the near future. But I went through the phase of, I have studied, I've got my degree. Now I need to work. And, you know, I think of myself that I'm you know, a little bit above average, you know. I'm smart enough to pull it off. So I'm thinking I'm going to get a job in a law firm. And I go out there and I put in my applications and it keeps coming back, no. There was a time in a space of 2 weeks, I put in over 200 job applications. Sure. In a space of 2 weeks. Now, this was after, for years I put in applications, I couldn't get work anyway because I was either overqualified or not qualified enough because now I had a master's. So it was a fine line for me. But then an international law firm came and hired me, and it was not a junior position, it was a very senior position. I was actually the country director. And I was like, okay, all right, this is nice. I finally got my thing that I wanted. But this whole time my mom kept saying to me, all right, well, look, if they don't hire you, it's okay, you know. You can always do something else. And I'm like, no, I studied for this. I need to get a job in this. But then eventually the company was downscaling. And believe it or not, I had to retrench myself.
Sure.
Yeah, imagine retrenching yourself. So I had to retrench myself because I was the most expensive person in the company. So I retrenched myself, and I actually decided on which of the staff, which of the lawyers had to stay, who had the skill and the capability to keep the business going.
Sure. That's not a nice thing to do.
So, but after that, I went back into applying for a job. But you know, after my last 200th application, I said to myself, I am not doing this anymore. I'm not putting myself through this anymore. I'm going to start a business. I'm going to start my own business. And that's how I started my grocery store. So, and then now, I mean, I'm part of Health Guard. And yes, it's a family business and we're growing and all of that. But there's always a story that pushes somebody. There's something that pushes you over the edge that says, okay, I have to do this.
Yes.
And that may be your moment of getting started.
Yeah.
So some people think that, how do I start being an entrepreneur is running to register a company. That's not really the beginning of starting a business. That is somewhere after you've decided to start the business, after you know what you're going to do. Because guys, something about registering a company, you have to file your annual taxes.
Yeah.
And don't do that if you don't need to do that.
And you know, something traumatic might also be a trigger to trigger you into starting and
Your own
becoming an
business.
entrepreneur. You know, like another friend of mine, her husband passed away, and he didn't have a pension fund or whatever, and it was
There
just
was
her and the
nothing.
two kids. But she started baking, and you know, she started baking for a baking company, and they survived. You know, sometimes, you know, something pushes you towards where you were supposed to be in the bigger scheme of what is laid out for you before you.
Absolutely. And there's no age too young, like you said. You know, I must say, and Christine, I'm not sure I've ever told you this story either. My son came back from school one day, and I discovered that he had started a business in school.
Oh.
So this business was, he discovered that he always finished his work in class before everybody. So now if you don't finish your work, you have to work through break until you finish your work. You have to finish the work. So he realized this, so he picked the kids who were the slowest in class in terms of finishing their work. And he told them, he cornered them and said, you know what, I will go and buy you your tuck shop thing for you. All you have to do is give me $5 grand. And if I keep doing it for you, at the end of the week, you have to buy me what I want from the tuck shop.
So clever.
Well, this was a moment where you
Apple
go.
doesn't fall far from the tree.
No.
Without a doubt.
So I am there beaming with pride saying, you go boy. And then I'm going, but you cannot do that, you know? You will get into trouble with your principal and your teacher, but in that side of me is going, yes, 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 keep it going. But of course I had to discourage the behavior because it was not appropriate for that environment. But you know, I channeled him into other ways and said, okay, I'll make a deal with you. If you do this X, Y, Z, I'll give you that money that you were trying to make from the other kids. And then he was happy with that. For him, he just wanted a payment for something. And
Yeah. And I think also there's an attitude because, you know, when I was small, you know, the parents maybe in our country thought, you know, you need to go and get a decent job and then you need to stay in that job for the next 30 years, you know, then you're being
Yes.
responsible, you know.
yes. Oh,
My-
and you have to get married, and then you
Yes.
have
I think
kids.
that's
Everything
called-
must be in a
that's
certain
called the red-
order.
the
Oh, and
rat
my
race.
dad gave me
Yes.
so many speeches about being so irresponsible for changing a job every 4 years. Because after 4 years, I felt that I've learned everything that I want to learn. I want a new challenge, you know. Yeah, he still thinks I'm very irresponsible.
Ladies, I'd like to tell you about when I first got started. For me, the products that I was going to be working with and selling and promoting was very important. interested in health. I've always been interested in health, and I've been experimenting with the boys with different types of supplementation to see what would assist them. You know, if giving them certain vitamins and supplements would help their cognitive ability. So I was very interested in that. So that was the first thing for me. The second thing for me was the support that I got from the company. I think that was very important. They didn't just leave you on your own. And the third thing was having a supportive husband. Because I don't think any woman can achieve in entrepreneurship if she doesn't have a supportive family around her that is happy to support her and give her the encouragement that she needs to be successful. So that for me was the three important things when I got started.
And you know, Christine, you've actually just raised a valid point that takes us into the final segment of our talk show for today, which is things to take note of as an entrepreneur. Because your family support is quite important. Otherwise, you would be working 10 times harder without that support. Because you go out there, you do what you have to do, and then you come home and it's like a battlefield. Or you're hiding.
And especially if you have kids and you're going to have an event or a function to boost your business, that you have a supportive family that you can say, just look after my kids today while I'm doing this.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we need that support. You need the support system. That's very key. And you always need that person. Because, okay, for like most of us, all of us that are on this side of the screen today, we all work together. And, you know, we support one another, and we tend to say to the other person, oh, you're not sleeping enough, you know, and we're not saying it because you look, because we're trying to spite the person. We're like, no, you got to get some sleep, because I know that I'm pulling all-nighters as well, but I don't remind myself enough that I need to get enough sleep. But Isabel, I can walk into the office and tell Isabel, you look terrible, you did not sleep properly last night. You know, and then the next day, Isabel keeps that in mind that she has to sleep. You know, and then Christine says to me, you're not sleeping enough, Loveline. You're working too much. And I say,
I tell you that all the time.
and I say,
it's good to have a mentor, you know, that looks at it from a neutral point of view.
Absolutely.
But I think also what is nice is when you have a best friend or somebody that you work with or whatever that you can talk to. I mean, Loveline and I talk to one another, and I think that diffuses much of the stress that we go with.
Absolutely.
Because we know that we're in this together.
Yes.
You know, if we go down, we go down together.
And that's one of the things. It's always good to have that one person that you know, if you go down, you're going down together.
You know, and we would discuss things, you know, especially Loveline that doesn't sleep a lot at night. You know, she comes up with the next morning, she says, what about this, what about this, what about this, you know, and I think that one's a good idea, but let's pass that one for the moment, you know. And that's also great of an entrepreneur, because you need that constant renewal of things, you know. And look at what other people are doing, and saying, well, why don't we do this way, and why don't we do this way, and trying new things. Am I right?
You have to be willing to try new things as an entrepreneur. You cannot be static, and do not be afraid. For example, you know, the grocery store that I have, for a long time, if you go to other African stores, you know, they just put it in a bag and put it on the shelf. You don't even know what you're buying. You have to ask them and all of that. And then we started with, okay, I wanted labels, but I can't afford those kind of nice labels. So I bought a small label machine, and we actually printed our own labels. And then from there, I went from buying normal plastic at Westpac Lifestyle, by the way, to now approaching people who make pouches. And we started packing in pouches. And then I had my labels done by a designer, and then they got printed professionally. So it's about because I always admired the labels at Woolies. Every time I go, oh God, it's so nice. I want to have labels like that. There's nothing wrong with admiring those ideas and adopting them into the way you do business, just to make your business better.
And that's also one of the things that you constantly have to re-innovate,
Yes.
or be innovation. If we look at a new product, both Loveland or myself, or a new promotion, we're looking at what other companies are doing locally,
Absolutely.
but we also look at what other companies are doing internationally, because we're lifting our business to another level.
Yes.
And then we're saying, wow, I love what they did there. You know, how did we bring that back into Africa?
Absolutely. And you know, sometimes people say, where do I want to see my business in 3 years, in 5 years? But sometimes you need to take baby steps as well. Where do I want to see my business in 3 months? Let's even start from there. Because if COVID taught us anything, it's that your 5-year plan can go down the drain in an instant. So is my business going to survive the next 3 months?
And that brings us to a very important point. You need to have a very strong, good financial advisor. Am I right?
Yes.
That manages your accounts. Not you yourself. Somebody that's neutral and saying to you, you're spending too much, you're not making enough profit.
Oh, dear Lord. That is the death of a lot of small businesses, being able to manage your finances. And you know, we think getting an accountant is so expensive, but there are accountants that are also small businesses, and they are affordable.
Yes.
So invest in one, it really does pay. And there's one point I actually want to get to, and I see that Shanae actually wants to say something.
No, I think, Loveland, the only thing that stands out for me based on what you and Isabel has mentioned, and if Ayanda also wants to say pop in here, but the most important thing looking at what it takes to be an entrepreneur is understanding innovation. If you are stagnant, or if you want to stick to the old, your business won't grow. I mean, we've gone through in a short space in so many changes, but it's been so great for a business because it helps you see what's happening in the world. It helps you grow your business stronger, and helping people change their mindset as to stop sticking to the old and move on to the new. So innovation as an entrepreneur is key. That is one of your main key aspects as an entrepreneur, to ensure that you constantly up to date with what's happening in the world, with what's happening in the industry, and understanding that fundamentals and how it can impact your business if you choose to go that path.
Absolutely.
It's like COVID, and then also something happens like COVID. We were all very fine, you know. We had these. You had these doom movies and these zombie movies.
I know, like what was that movie? Was it 2012 or something? And then the world did not end in 2012, and now we're in 2021.
And I'm thinking, where do they get these bizarre ideas from?
Oh yeah, now we know.
And then we're launching health card in Nigeria.
And 1 month later,
and 3 weeks later, you know, COVID is something that happens there in China. It's got nothing to do with us. And then we come back, and suddenly COVID's everywhere.
I never even knew there were different levels to locking a country down.
Yes.
Until last year. Yeah. You know.
Absolutely, ladies. If you think of where we were in February last year, and how excited
we're having fun launching a new company.
Yes.
Yeah, and then the wheels fell off.
Oh yeah, Christine, you got away with words. You're right. We launched a new company.
The wheels fell off completely.
Completely, and everybody had to start. We had to start thinking out of the box.
Yes.
We've just launched a new company. Yeah. What do we do to keep the momentum alive? You know, you start thinking, okay, online, all of that stuff.
And then Loveland start, no, we need to Zoom. I mean, Christine and I'm like, what Zoom? You know?
I can imagine.
Even my mom was like, what's that? I'm like, yeah, there's Zoom. We're going to get everybody. So now we had to do this short videos on WhatsApp, and we had to do like picture directions to tell people, this is how you download Zoom. This is what Zoom is. This is how you get into Zoom.
You know, and after 3 months, we were zoomed out. We could do anything.
Oh yes. After 3 months, you know, and it's so great how you innovate, and you change and you adapt. But you know, there's this one thing that I said I must make it a point today. Is stereotypes. It's not one of those things, you know, when people tell you about pitfalls to look out for when you're running a business, starting a business. nobody talks about stereotypes at all. And it's one thing that I've come up in every single business. There are stereotypes. People tell you, I don't want to hire a white person in this business because white people are not good for this kind of business. I don't want to hire black people because they're not good for this kind of business. I don't want Indians because no, they won't fit into my. Or no, I don't want people from this country because no. And I'll tell you this because I'm a very frank person, and sometimes probably too frank for my own good. But when I started my store and I needed to hire people, because it's a West Africa, we started off serving the West African market first, and then we started expanding. And people said to me, no, you cannot hire South Africans because they're too lazy. Absolutely not. And then said, and they don't know the food as well. No, you can't do that. And then another person said, oh, make sure you hire Nigerians because they know the stuff. And another one said, don't hire Nigerians, they will be too smart, and then they will be taking your business from you and selling to another person. And the other one said, don't hire Zimbabweans because they will steal from you. And then, and then they said, don't hire Congolese people. Oh, French people, they are so lazy. It's all these stereotypes coming from left, right, and center. And if there's one thing with me, do not tell me I cannot do something. The moment you tell me I cannot do it, I will do everything within my power to prove you wrong.
Yes.
Do not say that. And the manager for my store is a South African. I've had her from the day that store opened. And we are 4 years later? And she is the manager of the store. She doesn't eat the stuff in the shop. Well, she now eats a little bit here and there, but she knew absolutely nothing about it. But she is on point with the books, with the product. She knows what moves. She learned it over time. And I've got French people that work there, and I've got Zimbabweans, and I've never had problems with them. I actually have hired Nigerians too, and then I had a problem there as well. But I also hired some South Africans that I had a problem with. But it wasn't because of their nationality. It was just because of that person.
And I think also one's own framework. And I think, especially bringing it back to direct selling, don't disregard the person that's also a little bit more quiet than the rest.
That's the other thing.
What I've also found is that the person that speaks the most sells the least,
Yes.
Because they can yap, but they can't close the deal. And I want to tell you about this one exception in a previous direct selling company that I worked. And she was a domestic worker her entire life. She was 56 years old, and then she decided she wants to join a direct selling company.
Wow.
She had 2 children. She only had standard 5, so she wasn't educated, and she spoke a very broken English. She was Zulu. And everything, age counts against you, education counts against you. She doesn't speak fluently.
You're starting from way behind the kid.
Yes, and you would disregard her. But she was so committed for what she wanted to do, and she joined the company, and with support and mentoring, after and there were 13,000 consultants in the company. After 2 years, she was number 3 in the company. She went and sold 50,000 Rand every month. And she doesn't have a car. She got in the taxi, and she knew, I started this month, I need 50,000 Rand every month, and she did it. And that just shows you that mind change. So don't disregard people and always look for everybody that, are the talkative ones.
The person that talks the most in a room does not mean they're the smartest person in the room.
Yeah, or the best seller.
Or the best, and, we don't look down on yourself. Never think less of yourself, because people see you the way you see yourself. If you feel that you don't have anything of value to add, people will get that sense
and
from you.
And you project that.
Yes, and then they will treat you that way.
Yes. So
what you think about yourself matters a lot. What you say to yourself matters a lot. if you say to yourself, I cannot run a business and I cannot have a business, I can't even sell black soap on the side, you will not do it. It's as simple as that.
And the first little failure or the first person that says no to you, you're just going to say, oh, I can't do this.
I can't do this. And oh, by the way, just because your family don't support you, your family, they're usually the worst customers to start with, just to tell you that. They are the worst people to start with.
Yeah.
They come over eventually when you've sold to another person that's not family. Even your church people.
And I also want to tell you this little story that you need to be able to accept no's, but keep going on. When I was in my 20s, I was a business consultant. And our director of the business said, if you could bring in so much money, R1 million, which was a lot of that at that stage, you can also become a director. And I don't even think I was 32 or 33, and I decided, but I want to be the director of this company. And you know, I've never sold anything in my entire life. I was the youngest in the consulting company, and I was a female. You know, now you go to CEOs of big companies, which are all these white women with the grey hairs, etc.
And you're old enough to be their daughter.
Exactly. And I'm female. I'm not male, because in those days, you know, being female meant you didn't have a brain.
Yeah.
And you know, I did 47 cold calls. 47. And I didn't sell anything. And
well,
you know,
it's funny now, but it wasn't funny
You know how
then.
demoralizing that is for 3 months to go out there every time and do it as excitingly as you can, and then everybody looking at you and judging you specifically. And you know, in 1 month, I got three deals that came through, and they came through at 990,000 rand.
So what happened to the director thing?
Well, then unfortunately, I had a very big accident where I broke my back, and then
so we never found out whether they would have made you a director or not. But you see, that's the thing with no. You have to be willing to hear no, and
constantly go back and go on and go on and go on,
and just keep going. So, what's the time? Oh yes. Okay. So. We did say we're going to do this for maximum of 45 minutes. So those are our tips for you for today, you know, and we wanted this to be open and just a conversation and talk through it to make everybody feel more comfortable and more relaxed. Christine does quite a bit of training on entrepreneurship. And one of these days, we're going to post another link that will not be with us sitting in a studio like this. And she will do a whole training on entrepreneurship with several other tips that is more structured than just a conversation. Yeah. And we do encourage you to be a part of that because we've been blessed to have some of these resources in-house. And we'll love to share them with you. And even if we help just one person, that is a win for us. And that's what we want to do.
Yes, and I just wanted to say lastly, remember, if you look at a successful person, not one successful person has gotten there without having trials and tribulations.
Oh, yes.
And lots of character building experience. You know, they might look like they've got everything
under control.
Under control. Look at Loveland. She's beautiful. She looks like a model. She's got three beautiful children. She's got all these degrees. She's owned several companies. But her journey to get there has been difficult and has been character building. And that's what you should not discount when you look at people and you think, but I'm going through a little bit of difficulty. Just think it's going to make you stronger. And you know, unfortunately, I think both of us, and I speak here for you as well, but my dad always told me, you know, he wasn't a very good dad, and he always told me, you know, you will never be able to do this. And I'd like, just like Loveland, I saw red, and I just thought, but I will show him. I'm going to be the best person that I can possibly be. And look at us. Here we sit today, and we make a difference to people's lives.
Every day.
Which is amazing.
Yeah, it makes us
Every single day.
every single day, and it makes us, and that's one of the most fulfilling things about what we do. You know, in our daily jobs, it's highly stressful. We don't know. Some days we sleep good. Most days it's very short sleep. But you know, we keep going because we know that at least one day we're going to make somebody happy. It's one
It's
step
meaningful.
towards, yes,
It's having a
very
meaningful life.
So don't be, you know, people want to, like you said, they want to be rich, they want to be influential, they want to, but it's hard work.
And I think that comes
very
back to everything that Christine also speaks to. You need to have a dream, because there are so many rich people that are unhappy, that go into drugs, that go into to do all kinds of things that they shouldn't be doing to fill that void. You need to have a dream that you want to do something meaningful. Yes, you can be rich, but also having a meaningful life where you actually change people's lives. That's what it's all about.
Yep, that's what it's all about. So thank you so much for tuning in, and those who are going to watch later, we thank you so much for watching. Thank you to the lovely Isabel.
Absolutely. Thank you to the lovely Loveland.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Christine Barrett.
Thanks, Christine. And Shanae.
And Shanae Roman.
Hi, Shanae
And
and
Ayanda Radebe, they helped us, you know, put all of this together. They're always helping us with my sister and I with the posts. And Ayanda is behind the console today. She is actually helping us make sure that we are streaming
They say there's a strong man behind every strong woman. You know, Loveland and I have strong women behind us women.
So we have a completely different theory on that. So we are surrounded by women on every side, and we have strong personalities. So there's that whole thing about strong women being in the same room don't work. You haven't met us. So lots of love from us. Thank you so much for tuning in. Bye bye from us.
Bye bye.
everybody.
And just keep going.
Keep going.